Hello, wherever you are. It's Tuesday, October 6th, 2021, and my magic group has kind of died, so I'm going to show you one of my EDH decks. Let's start with Edgar Markov. For Edgar, I also have these tokens that I made for him. There's the 1/1 vampire that he creates, 2/2 flyer from Bloodline Keeper, and 1/1 lifelinker from Soaring. You notice none of these are white. I'm also smoking my pipe. So I don't have Legion's Landing or Elendra in the deck. When I was creating it, I just didn't think about them. So Edgar, what does he do? 4/4 legendary vampire knight for 6. Black, red, white. Whenever I cast another vampire, he puts another dude into play. He's got first strike haste. Every attacks, I put a +1/+1 counter on all my vampires, including him, which is pretty damn cool. So I'm going to show you the deck, talk about some of the decisions I made. Start off with Bloodseeker. So he's in here mainly as a cheap vampire, somebody can get out quickly. He's got a decent effect. Whenever anybody plays a creature, I can have them lose 1 life. Great for token decks. Fiend of Shadows. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, they exile a card from their hand, and then I can play it. I can sacrifice a human to regenerate her, but I don't have any humans in the deck. It's tribal vampires, all vampires. 3/3 flyer for 5. Plains, of course. A Ganjo Castle. So, quite a number of legendary vampires in here. So, sometimes preventing that other 2 damage to them. Save them from getting killed. And, hell, I just like the art. Falkenrath Noble. 2/2 flyer for 4. Whenever here another creature dies, I can drain somebody for 1. Blood Crypt. Typical Shockland. This I bought because I liked it. I just thought that was beautiful, this expedition map. Of course, typically it's going to find either Cabal Coffers or Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, whichever one I happen to be missing at the time. If I don't have one yet, sometimes I'll pick the wrong one. Or it'll get Volrath Stronghold. Twilight Prophet. I've heard a lot of noise about her lately because of the new Innistrad set coming up, Midnight Hunt. That she's something to watch as far as speculation. You also notice a lot of the cards here are foil. Something I did is I tried to any vampire I could get foil affordably. I got in foil. So she's a 2/4 flyer. Gives me the City's Blessing if I meet the requirements. And if the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of my library. During my upkeep, put it in my hand. Each opponent loses X life and I gain X. Where's the cards for the mana cost? Mountain. Bojuka Bog. Now this would have been nice if I had the foil one, but I've got 15 commander decks. And my 3 foil Bojuka Bogs in other decks. Would have been nice to have a foil time-shifted version, but those are 50 euros, so no. Livy Voldaren. 3/3 flyer for 4. For 1 and a red, turn something into a vampire after pinging it for 1, so if it survives, she gets bigger, that creature becomes a vampire, and then for 5, I can gain control of it. So, a nice Rattlesnake card. Other planes. Necropolis Regent. This is another card I have pretty much for the art. 6/5 flyer for 6. Whenever creature cruelty is combat damage player, I put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Good theme in the deck. The +1/+1 counters. Cabal Coffers. 2 tap. Gain 1 black for each swamp I control. I remember that was going for, what was it, 30 euros before it got reprinted. Nighthawk Scavenger. When I was looking at the vampires for the deck, this guy popped up, and this full art version was pretty cheap, so I thought, yeah, he's going in there. Only 3, so he's one of the guys that can come out early. Flying Death Touch Lifelink, which is nice. Power equal to 1+ number of card types on cards in my opponent's graveyards. Probably better suited to my Phoenix Mill deck or Sig discard deck, but he's a vampire. He fits the theme. Temple of the False God. If I've got 5 lands, I get 2 colorless. Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. So, that's a cheese 4. Put a 1/1 black vampire token with lifelink onto the battlefield. So there's my token. Or I get an emblem with creatures get ++. I've never used that, ever. It's always either vampires or as ultimate. Destroy up to 3 target creatures and or planeswalkers. Return each card put into graveyard this way onto the battlefield under my control. I think I've done that once. Usually he gets killed before I come even close to that. But one time not. Shizo Destoras. Basically a swamp. Target legendary creature gets fear until end of turn. Again, it's just beautiful. I love the art from Kamigawa. Miri. Some of the choices in here, a lot of people will question. She's one of them. But for 4, she's a flying first strike haster. 3/2. In which she hits a creature, I put a +1/+1 counter on her. So not bad. And it's foil. Cool. The card has a good story behind it about how in a parallel universe Miri became cursed by vampirism as opposed to Krovax. Shinka, the Blood-Soaked Keep. Basically a mountain. Both the added ability, target legendary creature gets first strike until end of turn. Although, to be fair, I think most of my legendary vampires already have first strike, so it's just in there for completing the cycle. Command Beacon. So sacrifice it, put my commander in my hand for the command zone. If Edgar has been killed a few times and is getting expensive to pay the commander tax, this would be nice. I also have one in my Kervik deck. Kervik gets killed a lot. Nobody likes it when he's on the battlefield except me. This is an experiment. Bonder's Enclave. So, a lot of big creatures in here. 3 draw a card. Activated only if I control a creature with power 4 or greater. Again, another card that wasn't that expensive, even for the full art foil. And I think it'll work out fine in this deck. Slayer Stronghold. White-red. Target creature gets +0, +2, +0, and Vigilant and Haste until end of turn. Another card with a nice history. This guy. Blood Baron of Vizkopa. 5 for a 4/4 lifelink protection for black and white. As long as I have 30 more life, which starting in Commander that's not that hard. And opponent 10 or less life, a little more difficult. He gets +6/+6 and has flying. So, this is a card that I actually spec'd on a couple years ago. After Dragon's Maze came out, I started looking at some of the mythics, and I started buying extra copies of them to speculate on them. I spec'd on him, and it has not paid out. I was watching this video today from Bad Boy MTG, and he's talking about 30 vampires you need to keep your eye on. He was not one of them. But in foil, he's oh so pretty. Anyway, he's in the deck. Mountain. Cathar's Crusade. This one I do bust out the calculator. Whenever a creature I control enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature I control. I expect this will get out of hand quickly, if it stays. Plains. Butcher of Malakir. So I don't have Grave Pact, I don't have Dictate of Erebos, I only have him for this effect. Whenever a creature I control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. So maybe with more, I've only played this deck twice, and both times it was just brutal. But in neither one of those games did I want Dictate or Grave Pact. He was sufficient, but there could be games where that changes. Vampire of the Dire Moon. 1 for a 1/1 Death Touch Lifelinker. And my god, she's only an uncommon. But she's going for about €6. I think I paid €6 for her. A little bit high, but only printed one set so far. And she is good for her casting cost. Anointed Procession. 4 to double the tokens that I would make. So him, and then the vampire comes into play. I get 2 tokens, not just 1. Sorin, 2 tokens, not just 1, and on. And with the card, Cathar's Crusade, you can see where this can easily build up my army very fast. Bishop of Rebirth. 5 for a 3/4 Vigilance. Whenever she attacks, I can return a creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from a graveyard to the battlefield. Haven't played her yet, haven't seen her come up. Not a whole lot of vampires in the deck that cost 3 or less. But there are a few, like this guy. Forerunner of the Legion, 2/2. When he comes into play, go find a vampire, shuffle my library, put him on top of it, or her. To be fair, or her, which, you know, a lot of the vampires I have are chicks in this deck. And whenever the vampire enters the battlefield under my control, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. In this deck, you might as well say target vampire, because that's all there is. Talisman of Conviction. I hate this new colorless symbol. I just don't like it. I would much prefer the old 1 in a circle. But it is what it is. And it's a good mana rock for this deck. Blood Artist. Now this guy, I would like to have foil, but there's more of the money than I wanted to spend on it. Whenever he or another creature dies, target player loses 1 and I gain 1 life. 0/1 for 2. Command Tower. I chose this one for the deck because the quote, absolute power is the only true authority. Anything less is a lie told by the weak. Even though it's Garrick Wildspeaker saying it, and the art is fairly green, it fits the theme of Edgar Markov about power crushing the weak. Patriarch's Bidding. I will name Vampire. What do your other lads name? Anything useful? Probably not. Let's see, what else do we have? Indulgent Aristocrat. Okay. Lifelink 1/1. A sacrifice creature. Put a +1/+1 counter each vampire I control. Another way to use and abuse the tokens. And he's just so cool. I love the blood cascade wine glasses behind him. Damnation. Got 3 board wipes in the deck. Damnation is the first one we've seen. Drana. Calastria Bloodchief. 5 for a 4 for a flyer. I can spend mana. Target creature gets -0, -X until end turn, and she gets +X/+0 until end turn. And that art. Oh, it's just fantastic. Big part of my EDH decks are just the art. I only use cards I like looking at. If there's a really good card, but I don't want to look at it, no matter how good it is in the deck, I just won't play it. So that feeds some of the decisions I make. Second Ragnarok, Talisman of Hierarchy. So this is the white-black version of Talisman of Conviction. I don't have... The name escapes me right now. I don't have the red-black Talisman in the deck because the foil one was 30 euros. I had stupidly sold the one I had a few months prior to deciding to build Edgar Markov, and I decided not to spend the 30 euros to replace it, but that'll probably change. Land tax. Go find lands if your opponents have more. Swamp. Tithe Drinker. This is another one I just love the art. 2-1 lifelinker for 2 with Extort. Swamp. Bishop of Binding. When he enters the battlefield, exile a creature an opponent controls until he leaves. Whenever he attacks, target vampire, which will, fair enough, probably be him, because he's only a 1/1, gets +X/+X till end of turn, where X is the power of the exiled card. And he's kind of cool. Nice art. Another swamp. High market. No, you will not be swords to plowsharing my whatever vampire I don't want to die at the time. Whichever one I want to see stay in the game, or the graveyard, which for me the graveyard is typically just a second hand. Stromkirk Captain, first strike, Vampire Lord. But it also gives us a first strike, which is interesting, because with Drana, if she hits an opponent, all my vampires... Well, she has first strike. If she hits my opponent, all my vampires get +1/+1. But if they all have first strike, they all hit at the same time, so they don't get that extra oof before combat damage is actually dealt. But he's beefy. Same thing, only black-white instead of black-red, and they don't get the first strike. It's kind of funny how they were sitting on top of each other in the deck. Okay, so I pay an extra 1 for first strike for everybody. That's fair. I can't turn that down. Savide Triumph. I like all the triumphs. I love the alternate art. I like the regular set art. But in this deck, this is the one I have. And this is my only Mardu deck, so I don't have any other Savide Triumphs in my collection. And there's so many cards that I like that I probably won't get one unless I come across a cheap one. And there's Drana, the last Blood Chief. So 5 for 4 for a flyer. Whenever she attacks, defending player chooses not lend your creature card in my graveyard, and I return it to play with a +1/+1 counter on it. Now, okay, fair enough. Your opponent gets to pick the creature. But if it came out of my deck, it's a creature I want anyway. So all they can do is pick the least bad option.